Last year, I felt stuck in a way that I've never experienced before. There were so many things that I wanted to achieve, but there seemed to be a wall between the potential I was capable of and the actions I could physically take. Simply put, my actions weren't lining up with my intentions. The gap was frustrating, and for a long time, it kept me stuck. In this video, I'm going to share some lessons that helped me get unstuck and my process for setting meaningful goals for 2025, including how I created a vision board that's helping me move forward with clarity and focus. If you ever felt like you're holding yourself back, I hope this video inspires you to take that first step. Let's get started. All right, so I know you guys want to know my thought process behind building this beautiful board, but first I need to tell you about some of the key things that I learned last year. The first lesson that I learned that was really important for me was recognizing that you are not lazy, you are just blocked. Because for a really long time, I basically felt like I lost my mojo and I made it my personality. I made it my character. And I think that's a really dangerous path to go down when you see a shortcoming and then you make it mean something about you. Because once you settle in on a belief about yourself, you then perceive the world and you interpret everything under that belief. You know, some of you guys have been subscribed for a long time. You guys know that I burned down my business. I took a whole year off. And then last year in 2024 was my first year coming back to work. And I had a lot of expectations of the things that I would be achieving. I had a lot of expectations of just the results that I would be getting and all these different things. But I learned that burnout actually takes a long time to recover from. It was almost like my sabbatical tricked me into thinking that I was fully recovered, when in reality, I was just physically well rested. So I was super burnt out from running my business. I took that 1 year off where I traveled, I Netflixed and chilled. I didn't do anything productive, which is what I needed at the time. And so I finally got to a baseline. And when I came back to work, I then had to confront a lot of the things that I was avoiding, like social media, working with people again, business in general. And I learned that just because you avoid something doesn't necessarily mean that you build the skills to overcome it. And so I almost see burnout in two phases, where the first phase is to get you to physically recover, and then the second phase is to actually stabilize again. And that stabilization period was my 2024. And it took a lot longer than I expected, and it was a lot harder than I expected. For example, I felt like I couldn't film videos again. I felt like I just couldn't be consistent at anything again. And it constantly felt like this tug of war between what I believe versus what I could actually achieve. And so this mental tension was a lot of weight that I was carrying over the last year. At first, what I would do is I would just constantly call myself lazy, and I would be comparing my old self to who I am now. I would over-glorify the version of me that was such a hustler, that was able to be consistent at everything, that was able to get results, that was able to just get shit done. Whereas the new self that I was stepping into during my stabilization period, I felt like I couldn't really do anything. And what I learned was that your nervous system, especially when you're doing something new or something challenging for the first time, or maybe you haven't done something in a while, it's gonna do everything it can to protect you. So it's no surprise that when you're in this stabilization period, that you can't bring yourself to film a video. You can't bring yourself to write a newsletter. Or maybe you do write a newsletter once, but then you can't do it the second time. And that's really your nervous system trying to protect you by pulling you back. And the worst thing that you can do is not just give up on it, because then you'll never build the skills, but it's also to talk badly about yourself. And for me, a long time I was calling myself lazy, unproductive. I would say or think things like, oh, I fell off, I'm so washed up. I literally felt super washed up, like a laundry machine. But that type of talking just didn't really serve me. And now, stepping into 2025, I actually feel like I've got that spark again. I want to film. I want to get out of bed. I'm excited about the things that I'm working on, but it took a whole year of me just sitting with it to get to this place. And I realized that I was never lazy, I was just blocked. Over on my Substack, I talk way more in depth about the things that I did to unblock, but this was the one thing that really helped me snap out of it and make me realize that I'm actually very capable of doing things that I want to achieve. I just need to be patient and have grace on myself to get used to doing these things again. And so all in all, if you're someone who can't bring yourself to achieve a certain goal or adopt a certain habit for some reason, don't internalize that and don't think that it's because you lack certain characteristics or that you aren't capable. Instead, recognize that there is a clear blockage somewhere in that and be patient in solving that. The most important thing is taking that problem and putting it out externally so that you can actually solve it rather than internalizing it and then giving up completely. The second thing that I've learned that's really impacted the way I want to show up for 2025 is asking myself whether something is actually hard or is it the fact that I just haven't put enough reps in. I got this from this podcast that I was listening to, and the guy was saying that whenever someone complains that something is hard, he always asks himself how many times that person has actually done the thing that they're complaining about. And when I heard him say that, I kind of had to take a good hard look at myself. And I recognize that for me, vlogging is something that I've always complained about being super hard, which is why I don't vlog that much. But then I looked at it and I was like, wait a second, I've only vlogged less than 10 videos in my entire life. So of course it's hard for me. I haven't put in the reps in. I haven't done enough vlogs to the point where it's actually become easy. Very similar to doing YouTube. In the beginning, it was incredibly hard, but after 450 videos, YouTube has become less hard and less challenging. Now, of course, if I take a huge break from it, it becomes challenging. But it kind of goes to show that you have to put the consistent reps in order for something to no longer be hard. It's the same thing for someone who complains constantly about how exercising is hard. I have a feeling when you look at their track record, they've probably worked out less than 12 times in a year. Compared to the person who works out at least 3 times a week, they've worked out 144 times in a year. So of course, working out for them is going to be less hard than the person that's complaining when they've only worked out maybe once a month at best. And so after listening to that, I gave vlogging another shot. And during the time that I was in Asia, I ended up vlogging. And at first it was incredibly uncomfortable and difficult and hard. But by the end of the trip, I was like a cam whore, okay? I have been cam whoring this entire time that we've been eating because I can't get over how amazing these views are. What did you say?
What?
Did you say I was cringe maxing?
Yes, exactly. The shame.
I did not care. I was able to get the shots, speak in public. It became second nature to me. And suddenly when I came back home, I stopped vlogging. And then now it's difficult again. But the old me would have just said, you know what? Here's proof that vlogging is hard. And so I'm not going to do it. Now, instead, I just tell myself, okay, I just haven't done it enough and I just have to get through that uncomfortable stage of learning something new. And then I know and I trust and I have evidence that when I get past it and I do it consistently, that one thing is no longer as challenging and it gets to the point where it becomes effortless. At the end of the day, if you're gonna complain about something being hard, you really need to have a good look in the mirror and ask yourself, how many times have you actually done that thing? And I'm sure when you compare it to someone else who has actually put the reps in, you're gonna see a major difference in the mindset. Next is really understanding the difference between being extreme versus being consistent. Specifically, it's this graph that I saw right here that really spoke to me, because this past year, I felt like I had bursts of greatness. And a lot of it was thanks to me actually removing the expectation of being consistent. I read books like The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I did the workbook, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. A lot of those things helped me tap back into the joy of just doing things, not for the sake of external validation or for the sake of, just doing it for other people, but doing it for myself. And that was exactly what I needed at the time. And because of that, it allowed me to execute on things that I'm extremely proud of. For example, I did a lot of videos where I just spoke authentically from the heart. I wrote a lot of great newsletters that I'm incredibly proud of. But then over time, as I got more and more passionate about my work, I realized that a lot of those things were quite inconsistent. Not only this, when I think about doing new projects, I have a bad habit of scoping things out really intensely. So this one thing that could have been simple, I end up adding all these overwhelming steps. I end up give. And then when I look at the project, I'm no longer excited about it. And instead I have a lot of anxiety about it because I'm overwhelmed. And so the theme in my life is that I always choose to do things in a very extreme way. But when I step back and look at the bigger picture, it actually hurts my results. For example, if I had just focused on much smaller projects but doing them consistently, I probably would have gotten more results than doing one big project and then being radio silent for the rest of the year. The same thing with working out. The person who decides to just do a 10-minute stroll every day is more likely to lose weight than the person who only does one HIIT workout in a year. And so as I really looked at this, I really learned that there is power in doing things consistently. I also learned about this when I did my YouTube series. So this was the first time since coming back from my sabbatical where I publicly announced something that I would be accountable to, which is delivering 6 videos that would teach you guys about how to grow and do YouTube. And it was really interesting because it took the 6th and final video for something to take off. And it's not to say that I had an expectation that things were all gonna take off, but it was really interesting to me because if I had not committed to something and if I wasn't consistent at something, I probably wouldn't have gotten to the 6th video. But yet it took the last and final video for it to actually take off. And that was a huge learning lesson for me. And it made me kind of look back at my YouTube journey as I was trying to do things on my own, which was the person who only posts once a month gets the chance to be seen 12 times in a year, but the person who posts every single week has 52 chances to be seen. And so as I'm thinking about this, I realize this could apply to a lot of things in my life where sometimes I get so overwhelmed by doing a 60-minute intense workout that I would just not do the workout at all. But instead, the habit that I need to instill in myself is instead of being so overwhelmed over a 1-hour workout, which I don't have the capacity to do today because we all have up and down days, I'm going to replace that with a 10-minute walk on the treadmill because at least I'm prioritizing putting the reps in. Same thing applies to social media. I will often get overwhelmed by my content plan because a lot of the videos that I'm thinking of doing are very highly produced, highly scripted, and all these things. So of course, when I'm not feeling in the mood, I'm not going to execute on that. But instead, what I should do is just film a 2-minute video or even a 30-second video if it's on Instagram on my thoughts and just post that instead because I'm prioritizing putting the reps in and maintaining that consistency rather than just dropping the whole project entirely and then ghosting everybody. Now, as I think about all these things, I'm also reminded of an old mentor of mine that I worked with that told me about the upper limit and the lower limit. So as humans, we're never gonna have days where we're 100% there. There's gonna be days where you don't feel like doing stuff. And so what he designed was he had an upper limit, which is all the things that he would do if he was having a great day, and then a lower limit, which is all the things that he would do at minimum if he had a bad day. So he used working out as an example. On his best days, obviously, he would put in a 60-minute workout. But on his worst days, if he doesn't feel like working out, the minimum thing that he would commit himself to do was at least put on his workout clothes. It didn't even mean working out, it just meant putting on the clothes. And sometimes just by putting on the clothes alone would inspire him enough to at least go out for a walk or walk on the treadmill. And so that is kind of the energy that I want to bring into 2025 because the past year has been really great for me as I just stood still and honored the creative side of me and I didn't have any systems and I just kind of did things as I wanted. But now as I feel like I've got my spark back and I feel really excited to accomplish the things that I want to do, I'm recognizing that putting the reps in is important, reducing scope is important, and prioritizing consistency over big results is also important. All right, so now that you understand some of the lessons that I'm carrying into 2025 that I feel are really kicking my ass into action, we obviously want to talk about this vision board. But there was actually a lot of thought put behind this vision board. So before I show you the fun stuff, I want to talk about how I use ChatGPT to help me identify and clarify my goals and guide me in making this board in the first place. So in the past, I would always have multiple categories of goals and I always found myself losing focus literally within 3 months of the year. I would have a goal for relationships, for wealth, for business, for spirituality, for all these things. And I know it works for a lot of people, but it just doesn't work for me because I need to be laser focused. I personally have found the best results when I'm laser focused on like 3 things max. Ideally just 1, but that's just not how life works. And so what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I kind of brain dumped who I want to be by the end of 2025 or the things that I would have liked to achieve by the end of 2025 or just like what state I would be in. And so I just wrote out freestyle wise, by the end of 2025, I have this, or I feel this, or I am this. Then I asked ChatGPT to identify 3 clear goals from that vision that I painted. So again, this is just me word vomiting the vision that I have and then allowing ChatGPT to really prioritize the top 3 things that I need to focus on and do in order to be close to achieving that vision by the end of the year. What you can also specify is making sure that these goals are formatted in the SMART goal format if you are someone who likes to see things that way. And basically, SMART goals is anything that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Now, once I got my SMART goals, I realized that even though it was clear what my goals were, I wanted to know what actions and habits that I actually needed to take in order to achieve them. I wanted to have a clear roadmap. And so the next thing that I asked was, based on these SMART goals that you identified, what would be the monthly, weekly, and daily actions or habits that I would need to take in order to achieve these goals? This then allowed me to see all of the actions I needed to take, but then the next problem is when I got this, I felt really overwhelmed. And so I collaborated with ChatGPT and I said that I wanted all of these actions and all these habits to be put into a Monday to Friday schedule. Monday to Friday being my days that I usually work. And then I treated ChatGPT almost like a personal assistant and I started listing the constraints and the preferences that I had. So for example, I have lunch at 12 p.m. every single Monday to Friday for 1 hour. I have personal training Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. On my off days when I'm not doing personal training, I want to be on the treadmill walking for at least 30 minutes. And after all of my exercises, when I get ready, I usually take about 45 minutes, including my showering, doing my hair and makeup and clothes. I also said things like, as someone who's managing 2 businesses, my personal brand and my milk tea brand, Super Boba, I specified that I prefer to only focus each day on one business at a time. Based on my experiences, I really struggle when I have to work on both businesses in a single day. Another thing that I did was let ChatGPT know my main tasks that I do for my personal brand and for Super Boba, and on average, how long it typically takes me. That way, it's gonna be a lot more accurate when it comes to the schedule that ChatGPT will create for you. And so based on that, ChatGPT then created a weekly schedule for me. And once you get that weekly schedule, you can easily collaborate with ChatGPT, moving things around, making sure that the actual timelines are realistic. And after getting this schedule, it also made me realize that if I want to accomplish all the things that I do, including managing and running 2 businesses, then I'm going to have to change some of my lifestyle habits, such as waking up earlier. And so that was really great information for me to see. What I also really loved is at the end, ChatGPT ended up putting it in a table so I could clearly see from a bird's eye perspective what I need to focus on each day of the week. For me, this was a really effective way of goal setting because sometimes you have this really big vision and then you've got these goals and then you know what you need to do, but actually putting it into your schedule and making it happen is a whole nother thing. And if you can treat ChatGPT as your personal assistant, then you're gonna be able to create your perfect week in order to achieve your goals. For me, this is actually more inspiring because now I feel like my goals are actually achievable. Now, once I saw all of that, I was obviously really excited, but to get me even more excited as a visual person, I decided to do a vision board. And so because ChatGPT knows everything about me, I then asked, based on what I want to accomplish, the habits that I want to have, what type of images, quotes, and things that I should have in a vision board. And that's when ChatGPT gave me a lot of ideas to create my vision board in the first place. Switching over to my vlogging camera, but basically from there, my best friend and I ordered these boards from Amazon and these cute little pins, and then we decided to do a pinning party. So I went over to her house and we basically sat down and we talked about our goals, and that was really nice to have someone to just talk about your goals with. It's a lot more inspiring, and sometimes you might even get even more clarity on what you want to achieve, or at least you have a cheerleader on your side. And then we sat in silence and listened to really great music. And then we started pinning the things that we thought were going to be really inspiring to us. For me, I pinned a lot of things I already knew I was going to pin, but definitely asking ChatGPT was incredibly helpful as well, so that I can come up with even more ideas and also have a way to think outside of the box, because I think a lot of times when I make vision boards, they kind of all look the same. And so it was really great to get some new ideas from Mr. Chat. And by the way, I actually have only done 3 physical vision boards in my life, and each time that I've done a real life vision board, it's always changed my life in some way. So one of the first few times was when I was in L'Oreal. I hated my job and I did a physical vision board. Another time was my first year doing YouTube, and I also did a vision board for that. And then this is the 3rd vision board that I've ever created, and I'm really, really happy with it. But anyways, after we did the pins, we then put the pins into Canva, and we ended up putting the Canva dimension as a regular sheet of paper. I have no idea what the dimensions are, so I'm gonna put it here so I don't butcher it. But anyways, by doing this dimension, it was easier to guess the scale of how big or how small we wanted our images to be. We then went to the print shop, printed everything out, and then we had a vision board party. Now, to give you a little tour of my vision board, I first have a lot of like focuses that I want. So I usually have 1 or 2 quotes that really speak to me. So the first one is, imagine treating your potential for comfort and calling it happiness. This is really significant for me because I feel like I've lived that soft girl era for 2 years, and I'm recognizing that I actually have a lot more I want to contribute. And so this was a reminder for me. Another one is being in my it girl era. So for me, I feel like I've lived my girl boss era where I was like super balls to the walls hustling. And then I also experienced my soft girl era after I burnt out, and that was quite nice. And now I'm realizing I want to enter my it girl era, where to me, it's being balanced. It's being that girl that is able to prioritize her health. I hired a personal trainer for this year. I'm really excited about that. Is able to prioritize her relationships, but is also able to do great work. And so that's what I feel the it girl energy embodies to me. It's also about being stylish and taking care of yourself. Ever since doing my color analysis in Korea and recognizing that I am for sure an autumn, I've started to really like upgrade my wardrobe and dress nicer, but also dress more colorfully as well. And I'm really happy about that because I feel a lot more confident too, and it allows me to make more videos, which is good for work. But I also want to take care of my skin. I want to not just be healthy on the inside, but also look healthy and great on the outside too. So to me, that's what being an it girl is. I've got reminders about being consistent, which is what we talked about. And also just a reminder that everything works out for me in the end. I call it lucky girl syndrome, which I think I have, and I know I have. And so this is something that's really grounding for me. I did remove a section here because it's like financial stuff, and I'm gonna keep that private. But yeah, I usually have these like anchoring moments that remind me of things that I'm trying to achieve, like not being extreme and instead of being consistent, or the more we do, the better we get, which kind of goes back to, you know, really increasing those reps. Other things that I have is really just romanticizing the habits that I want to instill. For example, drinking more water, eating more healthy, being more stylish and taking care of my appearance, or even just working out more. I've also got things to ground me. So even though I do have financial goals, I also have a reminder that being wealthy isn't just about money, and it's about these other things too, like relationships, like travel, like health. And so I have that on my vision board. And one little hack that I want to give for your vision board is going on Canva and using the grab text tool. I really love this tool. So for example, I'm very close to hitting 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And if you're watching this video and you haven't subscribed yet, I would love for you to subscribe. But instead of having some random person's name in the plaque, I basically just put my own name, and I did that on Canva. I also did the same thing for Instagram, kind of the amount of growth that I want Super Boba to have. And so that's just a little hack for you if you really want to step into the feeling as if you've already achieved the thing. And then what I've also done for my vision board is I've added something that really reminds me about how far I've come. So this is a sheet of receipt paper that I doodled YouTube video ideas on back then 6 years ago when I was working minimum wage as a coffee barista. And I decided to put it on my vision board to just remind me about how far I've come, and also trusting that things will always work out in the end. Not only this, I also have a photo of me and Leon trying on wedding bands, and so I also like to incorporate photos of things that I already have, or things that I've done, or just reminders of being grateful. So back then in my digital vision boards, I always put pictures of my pets or things that I've experienced, because a lot of the things that I wish for, I have to remind myself that I also have. And so that to me is what really grounds me when it comes to making a vision board, is that it's also a blend of gratitude board as well. But anyways, that's my vision board. I decided to put it in my office and put it in front of my beanbag. And in the past week, it's been really great for me because I actually sit in front of my vision board to do morning affirmations, meditations. I burn sage, I burn Palo Santo, and it's just this vibe, and it's actually inspired me to wake up earlier. I'm someone that's not really a morning person, but I have a streak right now where I've been waking up before 7 a.m. And a lot of it has to do with this grounding morning routine that I really like. And by having this physical vision board, it's been just so inspiring for me, especially because I literally get reminders of the person that I want to become or the person that I want to be by the end of 2025. And so I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more and you're curious about how my 2024 went and what things I learned to get me to the place today where I feel like I got my spark back, then make sure you check out my Substack where I did a whole 2024 reflections as well as almost like a podcast style. So if you don't like reading, you can also listen to it. It'll be linked in the description box below. As always, guys, I appreciate you. Happy New Year, and I will see you in the next one.